Hi, my name is Sarah Ahmed. I am from the Upper Darby Township Library. Today, I am joined with Karen Hassett from Clarifi for the workshop Survive and Thrive. Karen is the Financial Education and Outreach Manager for Clarifi, a regional 501c3 financial counseling and education agency that has been helping individuals and families in Philadelphia and surrounding counties to a better financial life for over 50 years. Clarifi's commitment to the community is to create hope by helping people identify and protect their most important assets. In the first 3 quarters of 2019, Clarifi provided 9,078 individuals in the Delaware Valley with a variety of services, such as helping them build emergency savings, purchase a home, or avoiding foreclosure. Prior to joining Clarifi, Karen directed financial literacy education and outreach for several Philadelphia area credit unions. In addition, she authored a financial education program for K-3 students, which is marketed nationally to credit unions. Karen is a Pennsylvania certified educator with over 10 years experience in the classroom. Wow, Karen, that is amazing.
Well, thank you. I think, being biased, I think all teachers should be given a round of applause, especially during this time and how hard it is, as we are doing, to work virtually with students. So thank you very much, Sarah.
I agree 100%. So I'm going to let you take it from here and teach us something new.
Okay, awesome. So as Sarah told you, I am the financial education manager at Clarifi, and this is my passion. And why is financial education my passion? Simply because I've been in some interesting financial times, some difficult financial times, and there was so much that I didn't know, and I wish I could go back to my younger self and tell me what I should do to prepare for the future in a financial way. But so the best thing that I can do is at least to provide or facilitate that information to others, and that's why I'm doing what I do. And really, as this webinar progresses, please understand that I am just the facilitator. I'm not an expert. I hope that I give you information where you can find answers to your questions. And for sure, one of the places that you really can talk to an expert is with Clarifi and our financial counselors. So let me tell you a little bit about what our mission is as an organization. We are a nonprofit, as Sarah said. We've been in business for over 50 years, and we started out as a credit counseling agency and realized as the years progressed that we needed to offer more than just credit counseling. But what we do is we create hope for people by helping them secure and identify their most important assets in their lives. And of course, those change as our lives, and we go through different life stages. I like to think of it or summarize our mission statement in one word. I think it's about empowerment. We empower people to make financial decisions that are based on research and understanding, and they will also help people find the resources that they need. And so Clarifi itself as an organization, you see here, we've been in business 54 years, and we've helped a quarter, almost 750,000 folks get a better handle on their financial lives. All of our counselors are certified, and we are a member of the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. We're also HUD certified, and our counselors have a wealth of knowledge, and we have been updating and researching our resources during this whole pandemic, because I have to tell you, something that I knew to be true yesterday or Friday before the weekend has certainly changed by Monday. And we share that knowledge with each other so that we we are on a constant learning curve, and as things change, we are really trying to keep up to date with that. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the very core of our financial life, which is budgeting. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about emergency budgeting, and to me, this is a great way to stage budgeting for the rest of your life. The other thing, we're going to talk about the CARES Act. We'll talk a little bit about small business, just in case you may have a business and you're wondering where you can get relief. And then, of course, the Families First Act. Then I'm going to dig down a little deeper and kind of get into the weeds with about how do we talk to our creditors? What about housing or food or utilities? And most of all, we're going to talk about scams, because right now scams are at an all-time high. And then finally, the last piece of this workshop, there will be a list of resources. And certainly the most important resource is Clarifi, because you can talk to our counselors one-on-one about anything that is concerning to you, even setting up an emergency budget, or if you want to talk about how to talk to your creditors, we're here for you. And I'm going to give you that information at the end of the presentation as well. So one of the things I think is the hardest right now is not even just the economic downturn or the economic changes or uncertainty. It's also just a health uncertainty, and I'm going to say uncertainty in its entirety. So I think it's really important for us to take a handle on our stress and to acknowledge it and help find a way to de-stress. And these are some great apps that are available to you free of charge, and you can download them on your phone, or if you have a tablet, your tablet, and some of them may even be able to be downloaded on a computer. My personal preference is Insight Timer. I use that. It has great music, guided meditation. They also have a new section for kids, because kids definitely are feeling the stress as same way that we are. And it's a really great way to de-stress, especially at the end of the day, or maybe even in the beginning of your day, do a little meditation to kind of get you on a kind of stress-free path. Headspace I've used as well, and they also provide some really nice meditation. I have not used Calm, but I know they're pretty heavily advertised. And then there's some others called Stop, Breathe, and Think. And then for kids, Breathe, Think, Do with Sesame Street, obviously for younger kids, Smiling Minds. And as I said, Insight Timer about 3 weeks ago added a whole section for helping kids meditate and just listening to calm music. Some of these do have in-app purchases, so please be careful with that. You do not have to buy anything to get some benefit out of these particular apps. So I would tell you, this is a stressful time, and there's so much information coming at us. This is a great way to take a breath and just stop thinking about that for a little, a minute or two. Okay, so let's talk about emergency budgets. What is an emergency budget? Well, emergency budgets are basically going through your income and your expenses with a fine-tooth comb, finding where you can increase your income or where you can reduce or eliminate expenses. So first of all, these are some of the kind of principles that I would tell you when we're looking at an emergency budget. You want to cut out all unnecessary expenses, and you want to prioritize those expenses. You might have to think about maybe putting a hold on some of your goals, or maybe change the priorities. For example, if you're thinking that you want to buy a house in the next couple of months or next 6 months, you may have to just change that if you either have experienced a loss of income or a reduction of income. And again, it's just something that you just have to reevaluate. The other thing I would really recommend is, if you have a significant other at home, or even if you have children, get them in on it. children are great accountability partners. So if you're trying to do something, maybe save for a goal or stop a bad habit, they are great accountability partners because they don't forget, for sure. The other thing is, when you have this emergency budget, this is the time when you tap into that rainy day fund. Now, if you don't have a rainy day fund, no, that's not to worry. This is something too we can also work on as we're working on our emergency budget. You know, this is just something, this is unprecedented times. And for me, what this has really taught me is I really do need to be serious about my rainy day fund. And for me, I have one, but I definitely want to make it bigger. And that's one of the things I've taken away from this whole pandemic. In addition, I am definitely going through my expenses with a fine-tooth comb and really looking at what is essential to my life and what really just became a habit. And I would tell you also, you might want to think there may be some other savings accounts that you can tap into as well. And plan 4 to 6 months ahead of time. If you can, put this in motion for the next 12 months. The worst thing that can happen is you could just end up saving more money. So so with that, let's talk a little bit more about our emergency budgets. So the first thing you're going to do with your emergency budget is just look at your assets. And assets those are the things that we have that are available for paying bills and living our life. So you want to look at what money is coming in. If you have an income, if you are working from home and still have an income coming in, you want to look at that paycheck just to make sure that you have taken advantage of every benefit that you possibly can, or perhaps you may want to reduce some of the things that you're doing. For example, I have a flexible spending account and I was using it to pay for my commuting expenses. Well, needless to say, I have no expense walking down the stairs and sitting at my desk anymore. That's pretty free. So one of the things that I was able to do was stop those pre-tax contributions to a flexible spending account. You can use those for commuting, you can use those for daycare, and of course, medical expenses. So maybe the daycare is no longer available or isn't available right now. Maybe you can suspend those payments until daycares do start opening up. Also, even going forward, looking into the future, some of these things, when you contribute to a flexible spending account or retirement account, that's pre-tax dollars. So you do get a little savings when you do that because you're actually lowering your taxable income. Something to think about for the future for sure. You also, when you want to look at your assets, you want to look at those assets that are liquid. And what I mean by liquid is that it is readily available to you to use, okay, to pay bills, to buy food, rent, all those kind of things. And you're going to look at your savings and maybe some non-retirement savings. And I, for example, have a holiday club that I've set money aside for, and a vacation club that I set money, that I contribute to every month. So those things, the holiday club is available to me, but there might be a fee if I pull the money out early. Typically, holiday clubs, you can only pull the money out with the last quarter of the year, October to December. And if you wanted to pull the money out a little earlier, they may charge you a fee. I haven't looked into that during this pandemic. I would be very curious to see if they're even, if they would even waive that fee if you had to pull the money out. But again, I'm not really going anywhere on vacation, and I don't know when we'll be able to start doing that again. So that may be a savings account that's available to me if and when I need it. The last thing you'll see on the bottom of this slide is the last resort. You can pull money out of your retirement savings. That would be your 401k, your 403b, and the like. The government has paused any penalty that would be associated with taking your money out, and I believe it's up to $100,000. That said, you still have to pay federal income tax on that. That would be your last resort. Just the difference between taking $5,000 out now, and if you look at the difference, the value of that 20 years from now, it would be worth $16,000. So you're really giving up quite a bit of money, $11,000, just to take that $5,000 out now. If you have to do it, you have to do it. But just, I would caution you, and certainly don't look at the stock market or listen to what's going on. Although I think today, at least, it started out on a good note, because remember, retirement savings is savings for the long term, and that is exactly where you get the most bang for your buck, is by leaving it in there and letting it alone. If you have to use it, you have to use it, but just make that the last resort. And then the next piece is your expenses. And this is probably the thing that gets most of us, is we have more money going out than we have coming in. So what can we control? The easiest way, the best way to get control of your expenses is to write everything down. And I'm going to show you in a few minutes just some tools that you can use to help you do that. So you want to write down all your expenses, and I would use at least for the next 2 or 3 months, because you're going to want to capture some of those expenses that you don't pay every month. What I would recommend, and this is what I did when I was trying to get a handle on where my money was going, I actually did a historical look back at what I was spending my money on. And that was easy enough to do, because I went into my bank statement and saw where things were going, what bills I was paying, and I categorized them. So I was able to look back historically, and I would recommend that when you look at these expenses and your spending plan, you're going to want to look 2 to 3 months ahead. So write everything down, and whether you use a pen and paper, or whether you do it electronically in Excel spreadsheet or an app, there are some great apps out there like Mint and Good Budget, or You Need a Budget. That's fine. You just need to be able to see it all in one place. And you want to write down what bills you pay. Are you spending money on, what your grocery bill is every month, and any other miscellaneous expenses? And I'm going to show you in the next slide an actual sheet that categorizes them. And I really like that idea, because you can kind of see what are the essential categories, and you also can see where your money is going, and as I said, include those bills. Make sure you account for those bills that are going to be due maybe in the next month, that maybe you only pay quarterly. Like I have to pay for trash pickup, and I only do that every quarter. So I want to make sure that I put some of that money in my budget or spending plan, so that I can account for when I have to pay that bill. Or insurance might be another one. What you're going to want to do is, once you do all that, you're really going to want to do what I call an essential test. And that is, you ask, is it a need or a want? And a need is something that you must have, that you cannot live without. It's something that will allow you to live in dignity and safety. A want is something that you would like. You don't absolutely need to do it. You could even put it off for 6 months, and it would most likely wouldn't have an impact. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through each one of those, and you're going to give them each one of your expenses and give them an essential test. So let me show you what I mean by that. This is a great tool. It's available through the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and if you can see that link. And I believe we will be able to make this presentation available to you. So you'd be able to click on that link. But I would always also recommend just going to consumerfinance.gov and see what they have available to you to help you with your finances. There are some really great great tools available. So this is how the first thing we're going to write down our assets. We're going to write down our expenses. Then we want to prioritize them, and that's going to help us make a plan. So I like this tool because it categorizes them into things that I need for housing or obligations that I need to pay. For example, you can see the housing, rent, mortgage, gas, electric, and obligations, credit cards. And let me tell you a little something about credit cards. A credit card minimum payment, the payment that you are obligated to pay, is a need. You need to pay that every month so that you can keep your good credit reputation. The want is that you want to pay your credit card bill in full, or you want to put a big chunk towards the credit card your bill. That's a want. If at this time during our emergency budget, if that's something that is not affordable, then you would just bump it back down to the minimum payment. A little later on, we're going to talk about what you can do to talk to your creditors about if you're having difficulty paying bills. And what I also like about this tool, it gives you some of the consequences that you may face if you don't pay your bills. And for sure, if you take nothing away from this, please make sure that you do not ignore your bills. If you cannot pay them, you're going to want to talk to the creditors, to the people that you owe money, your landlord, your lender, because if you can't make the payment, then you can work out some sort of repayment option. But by ignoring it, you're just going to ruin your credit reputation, and everything's just going to become more expensive if you do it that way. So I would really recommend this tool. And what's nice is you can kind of see the areas, I guess, are blue or gray. Those are actually, you can actually fill this out online and digitally, but you also can print it out and handwrite it if you want. And it just gives you a nice picture of what's going on and in your expenses and what are, and help you prioritize what needs to go to the top of the list. Okay. So I want to just kind of give you a second to think about this budget. This is an activity that I typically do when I have a live audience. But I would like you to look at this. I want you to review this budget. All these expenses, as you can see, I categorized them by housing, food, gas, electric, water, so on. And then in the next column, under regular, is the regular monthly payment that this individual is paying. Now, typically, or normally, this would be based on a $3,500 monthly income. But because of recent developments with this pandemic, this individual's income has been reduced to $2,250. So that's over $1,200 a month that their income has been reduced. So take a second and think about, what would you do to help this person? Put on your financial counselor hat, and how can you help them adjust their expenses so that they are not spending more than they're bringing in. So take a minute. And now, as I said, if we were doing this live, I would have you put it in the chat box, but I want you to think about, where can this person tighten your belt? And this is a good exercise to help you as well. So while you're doing that, here are some of my suggestions. And we certainly right now can, if you look down at student loans, that may be a place where we can bring in some major savings, because the government is pausing any payments that are due on federal loans only, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. And also, they have reduced the interest rate to 0 on federal loans. So for sure, if you have a federal student loan, that's a great place to have some savings. Other things, well, entertainment. Chances are you're not going out. There's also some things that are being offered for free, some streaming services and whatnot. So get creative, look at some some of the free streaming that's provided to us. I know museums and the zoo are doing some awesome streaming, and you know, it's definitely worth looking into. The other thing is maybe you just need to get a little bit more creative with your food bill and do a little coupon clipping, or find a way to save on that bill. And I'm also going to talk about that a little later. So you can see, and then obviously, to me, the last thing you would want to do is cut back on savings. But for sure, if you can, this is again an area that you can maybe pause, but please do not stop altogether for the future. I'll put put a note somewhere in your phone when this is all over to start that savings habit again. So some of the tips, again, you want to be careful. Don't impulse buy. Don't buy larger quantities that you need. I know some grocery stores are limiting what you can buy. So that will help a little bit when we get a little nervous about when we hear on the news there's going to be a meat shortage. And I mean, toilet paper still is hard to get, and cleaning supplies. But you know what? I read something today, and actually the best thing for cleaning is just good old-fashioned soap. So, and I know that soap is readily available at the grocery store, but because soap has some properties that are actually better at killing the virus and letting you and keeping the good stuff that you need to stay healthy. So, so soap is actually good old-fashioned bar soap is actually better at protecting us from the coronavirus. And if you happen to have an Alexa or Google, you can actually ask them to help you wash your hands. They'll do a little song, and as long as you wash for 20 seconds, you're good to go. Just watch out for marked up prices. There are scams out there, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a great site to go to find out if if you are being scammed, what to do about it. And the other thing I would tell you, you're going to need, you use your savings obviously to help you bridge what the loss of income to pay your bills, but don't withdraw any more cash than you absolutely need to, because the banks are safe and your money is insured. They're up to $250,000. And if you take out a lot of cash and something happens to it, it's gone. You have no insurance for that. So just withdraw what you need, and our banks are there. And I know a lot of folks that are working in financial institutions, and they're still there. So they're there for you. And the one thing I do want to also caution, if you do have that retirement savings, even if the news is a little disconcerting or or not good, just remember those are long-term investments. And the whole benefit of having those is that you let them just sort of ride through this turbulent time. Because when the prices are low, that means these funds are buying low. So when the prices go up, you'll actually own more. So it's definitely worthwhile. If you can keep it in there, keep it in there. Cashback apps are a great way to be a dollar stretcher. I know people that use Rakuten, and I also have added an extension to my Amazon called WikiBuy, and I know there's something called Honey. It's a great way to find out what coupons are out there, or if some retailer or e-commerce company is offering a better price. And I know that credit card, if you have rewards, they are offering are allowing you to use them for things other than travel. For example, my Venture One card said that I can use it on Amazon. And the thing that's cool about Amazon is you can actually buy groceries and use your credit, so you don't even have to pay for them. So there, again, just be creative, and even with your cooking, be creative. Maybe there's something in your cupboard that you can pantry that you can whip up and make a brand new dish. So just to kind of summarize before we move on, this budget is your emergency budget for now. It's helping us survive this uncertain financial time, but it also will set us up for a great lifestyle change for later, and actually become more mindful about how we spend money and when we spend money and why we spend money. So I like to think of it as that it's setting us up to thrive, to let our money give us the freedom to do things that we love and not be a slave to our own finances. In other words, not have to make decisions every single minute about based on our money. I like the idea of having financial freedom, not spending freedom. And again, you want to just assess what you have. And if you're like me, you may need a partner, an accountability partner, to help you with that. And I would, maybe you have a friend who is kind of going through the same thing. Maybe the two of you can work on this together. And if you need help, you certainly should reach out. Clarifi is there. All of our counselors are working remotely and are available. And again, like I said, I'll give you that number and that contact information at the end. Just get a handle on your expenses, because what you want to do, and to me, this is a really good time to do this, is reframe how you view your financial life. You want to change your mindset and start thinking critically about spending. And one of the things I would love you to think about as we're going through this, as I said, a need is a must-have. It's something that allows us to live in safety and with dignity. This is a really great time to evaluate that's your spending habits, our spending habits, and move something off that list that you consider essential, but maybe it really isn't essential. And what I would like you to do is kind of think about that, because lots of times our spending is just habits. And if we sit down and look at everything objectively, we'll realize that, well, gee, I don't really need to be doing that every week, because those weekly habits turn into big annual expenses. So while we're doing this, think about what you might take off your essential list, and I'm sure there is something. I know for me, for example, I'll give you a quick one. For example, there was an app that I was using on my phone to track my food consumption. You know what? I used it for 3 months and then I stopped. But I was still paying for it. It was on my essential list. What they did is they gave me a low introductory rate and then jacked up the price. And I realized I was spending $20 a month. Now, maybe that doesn't sound like much, but that's $240 a year. What am I giving up to spend $240 on that app that I don't even use? And that's the way I think you would like to, you really could think about it. So let's get into what our government is doing to help us, to support us. And we're going to talk about what's going on with the CARES Act. I'll briefly talk about small businesses and the Family First Act. Okay, and you can see these are some of the things that we'll be talking about. Unemployment compensation, that economic impact payment, and that AKA stimulus, IRS, and small business and Family First Act. And let's go on for that. Okay, so the CARES Act included unemployment compensation benefits, and they're basically covering anybody who's out of work because of COVID or the coronavirus, individuals whose hours are reduced because of that. And it's also including self-employed and gig workers. That's those Uber drivers or, Lyft drivers, or anybody who's working on the side. My daughter has a friend who's a photographer, and right now no one's having weddings, and people aren't really doing a lot of professional photography. She can't work, so she's eligible under this PUA to portion of the CARES Act, and it's short for Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. Okay, so the PUA. And also there are additional weeks of benefits, taking them, adding another 13 weeks. And for those of you or those of us who maybe have exhausted our unemployment benefits, it's also expanding those. One of the things I would like to point out, I actually had my nephew who wasn't sure that he actually got denied. And he lives in a different state, and the way the state set that up was they had two portals, one for just regular unemployment compensation, so for somebody who was laid off even prior to this, or I know someone who is laid off every summer because their job is tied to the school district. Those folks would go through the regular unemployment channel. But folks like the gig worker or self-employed, or someone who's either job has the hours have been reduced, or even somebody who was offered a job and the job went away because of the coronavirus, you may be eligible for unemployment compensation under the PUA. So just do a little research and just make sure that you're applying to the right place for that. And again, this is where our counselors can help you for sure. So anyway, what this does include, unemployment, you're going to have 39 weeks. They added an extra, that includes that extra 13 weeks for anybody who is applying. And up until July 31st, there will be an extra $600 a week. So you'll get your state's minimum payment depending on your income and if you have children or not. And that will be added to that $600 a week. But that $600 goes away for right now as of July 31st. You will have to still pay federal income tax on that benefit, and you can certainly elect to have that taken out, so you don't have to worry about it. But in Pennsylvania and in Jersey, there are no state taxes associated with this. The one thing you should consider too, if you're thinking about unemployment benefits, you also may have to replace that health insurance. And if you've been laid off, there are a couple of options. You do have 60 days to go to the marketplace at healthcare.gov to select a plan under the ACA, or you could opt for COBRA, which is basically you pay for it, but it would be an extension of your employer-sponsored plan. And you know what? I did include this website, and again, you'll get this. This is a great website too to find out what your unemployment benefits are by state. It literally just put in whatever state it is, and it will lay it out for you. So I thought that was a really good resource. Now, this economic impact payment, this is folks that for sure are starting, are getting this, and what they're doing is they're staggering it. So they had they kind of they had a schedule of who gets their money first, and anybody who filed income taxes in 2018 or 2019 and paid or received their refund electronically, they were kind of the beginning of the line because the government had their financial institution information. They are starting to, I believe this month, or excuse me, maybe in June, early June, they're going to start sending out those paper checks. Now, there is a way to find out if you haven't gotten your payment. first of all, to find out if you're eligible and to find out where it is. And that's at Get My Payment. And you just go onto the irs.gov site, and it's on the landing page. It's pretty easy to find. But here's what the benefit is. It's $1,200 per individual or $2,400 per couple. There are some income limitations. If you, as an individual, make $75,000 or less, that you will get that full $1,200. It starts phasing out after $75,000 to $99,000, when at that point you will get nothing. It'll just, the payment gets reduced between $75,000 and $99,000. And you can see that that this graph that I have here has it kind of just has a pictorial of how it works. Same thing goes for couples. Once you anything on 150,000 and under, you'll get that $2,400. And then once you hit that $150,000, it does phase out until you reach 198,000 combined income, and then just goes away. You will have had to file taxes either 2018 or 2019, or receive some sort of Social Security benefit or VA benefit. If you have children under 17, you will automatically get a $500 payment. But if you have someone in the house between who's 17 to 24 and there's still a dependent, unfortunately there is nothing, there's no economic impact payment available for them. Even if they're, even if they are your dependent. Okay, so one of the things I do want to kind of just tip now, so the government, is referring to this as an economic impact payment. You'll hear it on the news as stimulus, or you'll read it in media or print that it's a stimulus payment. It's sort of a shorthand way to refer to it. But I would caution you, if you should get an email or any text message or phone saying, I can help you get your stimulus payment, then chances are that is a scam, because no government official or government sanctioned entity will refer to it as a stimulus payment. And plus, you don't have to pay to get this. Okay. So I want to talk IRS. The good news is they've extended the tax deadline till July 15th, 2020. Now, and again, I caution you, if you are eligible for that impact payment and you haven't filed taxes, then you probably should go ahead and do that. Right now, student loan garnishments are paused on any tax refunds because because of the coronavirus. And if you are having, if that was garnished, let's say you filed ahead of this, I believe it was March, oh gosh, I can't remember the exact date, but it was in March. I want to say March 15th. If you had filed and your refund was taken because you owed money on your federal student loans, that should have been returned. And interestingly enough, there are some changes to that flexible spending account that I was telling you about, what's eligible if you have that a health savings. So double check some of the over-counter things that you buy to take care of your health may now actually be eligible for reimbursement under that flexible spending. If the government does not have your financial institution information stored electronically, this is one way you can go to irs.gov and you can actually put in your information. And what they're going to look for is they're going to look for your routing number, which you can see is those first digits between the first colon, or right after the first colon, and then your account number, which are the digits after the second colon. They don't need your check number. You wouldn't need to include that. So if you are if you are a small business, there are a couple ways that the government is providing some support. Probably the most known is that Paycheck Protection Program, and it's a forgivable loan as long as you keep 75%, or as long as you keep your employees on, and 75% of that loan is used to pay payroll. It is forgivable. That means it will be if it's a grant, you don't have to pay it back. We've had 2 rounds of it, and from my understanding, there is still some available. And what's nice, the second round, there was a set aside specifically for community banks like credit unions to lend to those smaller Main Street businesses. That economic injury disaster loan is a loan that is payable over 30 years, a really nice fixed interest rate of 3.75, and businesses can request an advance, and that's not part of the loan. So that's something that is available for businesses, but that would be, you'd apply for that directly through the Small Business Association. Where it's a Paycheck Protection Program, you would go directly to your financial institution. Okay, this is the very first relief act that was passed, the Families First Coronavirus Act, and this covers employees who work for an employer that has 500 or less employees, and there are some certain government or certain public employers that are included in this. But if you would have to leave because either you are quarantined or sick, then you would be eligible for 2 weeks paid sick leave. If you have to leave because you need to care for someone who's quarantined, or you need to care for a child that's under 18 years old because their school is closed, you actually would get 2 weeks paid sick leave at 2/3 pay. There's also an additional 10 weeks available in family and medical leave at 2/3 pay as long as you've worked for the employer for 30 calendar days. So this is something where you may want to apply to this and unemployment if you're not sure where you would be eligible. And my feeling is, if you don't ask, you don't know. So you may want to apply here if you're taking care of someone, or you yourself have to be quarantined, and also apply to unemployment and just see where you are actually eligible. Okay, so we talked about what the government is doing, and there are other things coming through. They're coming down the pike. So hopefully, as we go on, things will become much clearer, and there will be additional relief as we move into the summer. But let's talk about some specifics, like how do we want to talk to creditors, or housing, or food, if we need to access some of our food resources, and for sure utilities. So let's drill down. Before I go any further, I would like to give you some good news. I think this is as I told you, scams are at an all-time high right now. So what our credit reporting bureaus did is they got together and they agreed that we can actually access our credit report. Now, that's not a credit score. That's not that 3-digit number that we talk about when financial institutions look at our credit worthiness. This is our credit report. It's just basically our entire credit life, and credit cards that are being applied in our name, or any loans, how we pay our bills. You can actually pull a credit report every week. It will not hurt your credit score. By law, at one time, you were able to pull one from each of these a year. Now you can pull one a week, and that's now through April 2021. And the place to do that is that annualcreditreport.com. Okay, that is the one website that is say, that it was part of the act that the government promulgated years ago to make sure that we had access to our credit history. So annualcreditreport.com, it's totally free. You do not have to pay for anything. Well, I'll take that back. If you want your credit score, you may have to pay for that. But just to see your credit report, you can just look at that every week. And I can tell you that's a great way to keep track of what's going on in your credit life, making sure that nobody has your personal information and is trying to take credit out in your name. And again, it will not impact your credit score. So if you are having difficulties paying your credit card bills, if you can't make that credit card, the minimum payment, call your credit card company. Be ready to explain why you can't pay and work out some sort of repayment schedule with them. It may be interest-only payments, it may be smaller payments, or it may be a paused payment. And in a little bit, I'm going to talk to you about 3 questions that you should ask any creditor when you pause your payments, because it can have a major impact on your budget. The same would go for auto loans or personal lines of credit. Some of your lenders are going to allow you to skip a payment or defer a payment. I know my car company, my auto, the place where I have my auto loan, did not allow. I have 2 loans. The financing company through the car dealer or the auto manufacturer didn't really do anything. They just said if I need help to call. But my credit union actually paused my payment on my car, and I had 2 payments left, so I really didn't want it to pause. So I just went in and manually made the payment. So some creditors will pause those payments, and if you want to continue paying them, you may have to go do it manually. But again, if you are having trouble making these payments, please reach out to them. They are all pretty aware of what's going on, and they will do whatever they can to help you through this. Same thing with student loans. The federal student loans, and not all federal student loans are eligible. I would say if you got your student loan 2010 or later, you're probably okay, but any payment is automatically stopped from March 13th to September 30th. That's the date that I was thinking. Yeah, March 13th to September 30th, all your federal loan payments on student loans will be paused. In addition, the interest rate is now reduced to 0 until the end of September. Certainly, if you can pay, go ahead and pay, because right now you're only paying principal. And so that means you're knocking down that debt a lot faster than you would normally if you were paying interest on them. This also includes Parent Plus loans that were taken out after 2010. So again, and I would just, if you're questioning if your payments weren't paused or your interest rate isn't 0, just call your loan servicer and find out. Because again, there are some federal loans or federal programs that are not eligible for this program. And this is all provided under that CARES Act. Private student loans are not covered under the CARES Act, but again, call your lender if you need help repaying or if you need to pause it. They have been encouraged to work with you, and some of them are actually probably have reached out to you anyway if you happen to have a private student loan. And also, if you do, just as a thought, if you have a private student loan, interest rates are pretty low right now, so it may be worthwhile investigating a refinance, as long as the fees aren't exorbitant and not, and make it cost more. So that may be another option. But just talk to your lender.
Karen?
Yes.
I'm sorry, could I ask a quick question? You mentioned earlier about paying taxes and the student loans. Can you repeat that part?
Sure. So if your federal student loans are in default and the government was garnishing um, your tax refund, if they, and I've talked to people where the government just takes the refund and they never see it. That was supposed to have stopped. And if it hasn't, um, I would give us a call. Give our counselors a call. If for some reason your tax refund was garnished and you have a federal student loan, then that should have stopped. That should have paused for right now. And
Okay,
if it
thank you.
hasn't, then you need to follow up on that.
Thank you.
But just yeah. So yeah. So hopefully that clarifies that. All right. So again, just if contact your loan servicer and talk to them, and you may be able to work out a repayment that will help you with your budget. So if you are a homeowner and you can afford to pay your mortgage, please continue to do so. And if you can't, again, contact your service provider immediately. And you could talk about ways to repay. But let's talk first about the mortgages that are covered under the CARES Act or that are addressed in the CARES Act. Any federally backed mortgage, and I'll explain this in a minute, is there is a foreclosure moratorium from June 30, till June 30th. That is federally, and in Pennsylvania, they actually extended it to July. Forbearance, you do have the right, and this would be something you would have to request. And forbearance is basically you're pushing present payments off to the future. And it may not be 100% of your mortgage payment. It could be a portion of them, but you're taking what's owed presently and pushing it off to the future. Now you can request that for up to 180 days. My understanding is a lot of mortgage companies are giving a 3-month forbearance and then ask you to come back and see how you're doing. You also, if you need to go beyond that 180 days, you can ask for an extension. But again, you do have to reach out to your loan servicer to get this forbearance. This is what the government, they actually came out at the end of last week and let us know how they're going to handle this forbearance, this money that's been pushed off to the future. If you sell your house, that money will become due and payable. It'll be like a lump sum, a balloon payment, if you will. If you are at the end of your mortgage, let's say it's a 15-year mortgage and you're going to have it paid off in another 5 years, at the end of that mortgage, 5 years, you will have to pay that lump sum back. There is some talk about financing that lump sum, but I haven't gotten anything clearly defined yet. But again, just be aware that any money that you push off will have to get paid back in a lump sum. And of course, on your mortgage, that interest will still accrue. Now, what is a federally backed mortgage? It's basically a mortgage that is owned or otherwise backed by one of these federal agencies. And you can see FHA, VA, USDA, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. Well, if you don't know whether your mortgage is federally backed, here's, I'm going to go a little ahead and then I'll come back. You can go to these sites, knowyouroptions.com/loan lookup to find out if you have a Fannie Mae mortgage, or FreddieMac.com/my mortgage to find out if you have a Freddie Mac mortgage. Or just call your mortgage company. Like my mortgage company is, the place where I got my mortgage actually sold my mortgage to Freddie Mac. So my personal mortgage is backed by Freddie Mac. So that's one way to find out. Just either use those two resources or just call the company where you pay your mortgage. And if you don't get your paper invoice, just go online and look, and I'm sure there's a customer service number there for you. If it's not federally backed, and you're having trouble paying your mortgage, contact your servicer. Like the other creditors, our government has asked them to work with consumers to help them through this pandemic. This you will also get in the excuse me, in with the PowerPoint. It's a great little over 3-minute video about this, everything I just talked about, and it really is a great explanation of it. So here are the 3 questions that I mentioned that you should know, regardless of whether it's a mortgager, a mortgagee, or a lender, any kind of student loan, any place where you've borrowed money and you're asking them to pause your payment or push it off to the future. Ask these 3 questions. Will I owe the entire unpaid amount in a lump sum once the pause period has ended? Now, we know for federally backed mortgages, it won't be the pause period. It'll be either when you sell your house or when the mortgage is over, the mortgage term is over. The other question, can the loan term be extended so that payments are added at the end of the mortgage? And again, we know for federally backed mortgages, but for non-federally backed mortgages, that would be a great question to ask. And also another question might be, will subsequent monthly payments be higher to make up for the deferred amount? These are the questions that you want to ask to make sure that you don't blow your budget, or because you haven't accounted for what your financial obligation is at the end of this pause period. Okay, if you are a renter and your landlord has a federally backed mortgage, there is a 120-day moratorium on evictions. After that period is up, the landlord still will have to provide you a 30-day notice to vacate. If your mortgage or your landlord doesn't have a federally backed mortgage, and if you can't make, first of all, if you can't make your payments, please contact them. But they cannot evict you until courts reopen. And actually, recently, in Pennsylvania, Governor Wolf just signed a bill that prevents any foreclosures or evictions through July 10th. So, and again, there will be a period after that where you're going to have to get, you'll have to have notice of eviction and things like that. But if you are having any trouble, this would also be a great opportunity to call Clarifi and understand what your resources and obligations are and what's available to you. And if you just have to ask your landlord to know whether they have a federally backed mortgage or not. And you know what? I'm actually going to give you some phone numbers that if Fannie Mae has a renter hotline that you can call, and it's 1-877-542-9723. And Freddie Mac has also a renter's hotline, and that is 1-800-404-3097. And I'm just going to repeat that. Fannie Mae's renter hotline is 1-877-542-9723, and Freddie Mac 1-800-404-3097. And I would also encourage you, just call our counselors if you're struggling. They will provide great resources for you. Okay, and I already told you about this, so so let's talk about food assistance. If you need food assistance, the food pantries, food banks are available to folks who are out of work. Typically, right now, all you're going to have to do is a verbal self-declaration of need, and pretty much just you're going to have to provide your household size and your weekly income, and that would be post-COVID. And these are some great resources: feedingpa.org, hungerfreepa.org, dhspa.gov is also a great resource for that. And starting in early May, there also was a resource for food delivery to disabled, and This, you can either email them, and you can see the email address on here. It's food@libertyresources.org, or give them a call at that number, 215-709-9619, if you or someone you know who is disabled would benefit from food delivery. This is also meals for students. If you have an eligible student, there are ways to get meals. Typically, there may be a week's worth of meals, but that education.pa.gov is a great resource for that as well. And certainly, either your school district or your local school, I'm sure, will have resources available to you if you haven't already tapped into them. Grocery help, emergency SNAP benefits are available, and they can be expedited and issued in 5 days. WIC, if you will help eligible caregivers, and there's 3 ways to get in touch with them and get those benefits. And there's that 800 number, WIC WINS, WIC-WINS, or Philly WIC at northwic.org, or just and this will be a hot link WIC application that's online. Another great resource, and they've actually aggregated a lot of things, so this may actually be your first stop, is this Philadelphia Office of Children and Families. And again, that will be a hot link in this presentation, but basically going to www.phila.gov, and they have all their, they have links to all their COVID resources, and that is a great resource to just as sort of a starting point, if you will. And if you know of an older adult who needs assistance and groceries or meals, that www.aging.pa.gov will also provide lots of great resources for that. Now, utilities. If you can pay, then please pay. But there has been a moratorium signed by Governor Wolf on any kinds of shutoffs for non-payment. But again, like I said, if you can pay, please pay. Or if you are struggling and you can make some payments, call your utilities and work out a payment plan. They may be able to put you on a budget billing, which would be, you'd have a set amount every month. And even if you're using more energy, that amount doesn't change, because what happens is when you use less energy, it actually will sort of backfill in the money for that. But it's a great way to to keep your energy bills on a more consistent monthly amount. They may also, there are some resources available to you through the utility companies if you are having trouble paying your bills. And if you call them, they can help you identify those. And for sure, we can too. So if you would prefer, just call Clarifi and set up an appointment with a counselor. There's other things, find ways to conserve. I know that my water bill went through the roof, and we are washing our hands all the time, and we're home all day long. So finding ways to conserve, like shutting off my water while I'm brushing my teeth, in between the rinse of the toothbrush, that might be one way. Maybe not run the water when I'm washing dishes, fill up a tub and just use that and wash the dish, set it aside, and then rinse all at once. So find ways to conserve, or just shutting off lights as you leave the room, and just trying to keep those utility bills down. So the other thing, I told you, scams are at an all-time high right now. And of course, that person in need scam is always out there, but even more so now. If somebody comes to you and says, I can help you, your Social Security benefits are going to be impacted, or they're going to be reduced because of, because you need to give us some information, or you need to do this on your account. Understand the Social Security is not going to reach out to you. If you've reached out to them, that's one thing, but they're just not going to independently reach out and say, hey, we got a problem with your account. They just aren't going to do that. There are a lot of scams right now with this coronavirus, offering cures, offering face masks, offering hand sanitizer. Please, if you're going to buy any of that thing, any of those things, I know if I'm on Instagram and I'm looking and those ads pop up and it's like get three face masks for $9.99, I would caution you, please be careful of those. Look at who's selling it, and I would Google that name and add these words, scams. So ABC company and scams, or ABC company and complaint, because you will find out if they are legit or not. But the other thing is, please be careful, and this is even if you order on Amazon, there are people who will upcharge you. So they might charge you $5 or $9.99 for 3 masks and then charge you $25 for shipping. So make sure you understand the shipping terms and understand if you can return it if you're not satisfied with it, because lots of times the products with some unscrupulous sellers, some fraudsters do not live up to the description. So just be really aware of that. And if you should be a victim of scams, you certainly can report it to the Federal Trade Commission, or identitytheft.gov is another great option for you. One of the things, if you do buy online, please use your credit card company, because then you can go through your credit card to dispute any charges if you never received the item or the item wasn't as advertised. So don't use a debit card or your ATM card online, because then that's just money pulled right out of your savings or checking account. Use a credit card. That's why I have one credit card that I use for online shopping, so I know that that is that is it. And so if I ever dispute, and I have disputed, and they have taken care of that for me. So that's something that's a little tip I would tell you. But if you have been a victim of a scam, just the FTC, it's F as in Frank, T as in Thomas, C as in cat, .gov. And you can file a complaint there. Also, you can use that site to look up if there are any scams that are going on right now. So one of those scams that's really rampant right now is that stimulus check. Remember, the government will never refer to it as a stimulus check. I mean, you may hear, in news that they do, that government, that some of our representatives use that word as a shorthand, but a government official is not going to come to you and offer to help you with a stimulus check. They're just not going to do that. So, and also you should not have to pay to get that stimulus check. So just be really careful with that. And any kind of emails, text messages, phone calls about your IRS, you're in trouble. Again, the IRS just does not have time to call us individually and tell us we're in trouble. What they'll do is they'll mail you a letter and let you know if there are some problems. Any emails, I know folks who have told me that they've gotten Amazon emails. I did get a ton of them, that there was some, my account was suspended, it was frozen because there was a problem with it. And do not click on anything. Just go, what I would tell you to do, if you get an email about an account, delete it, and then go to that credit card or directly to the site where you actually order. Like I would go directly to Amazon and look, not using the link that email sent, and look and see if there was a problem with my account. So use that trusted number or that trusted site that you've used before to determine whether there's a problem with your account. Just don't click on any of those emails, and they just come with such frequency that you might just do it absentmindedly. And but if you do, reach out to ftc.gov. And and of course, any kind of supplies, which we've talked about. Debt reduction, if you have somebody reaching out to you saying, I can help you reduce your debt, all it costs is blah, blah, blah. You know what? You can call us and the cost is free. So I would tell you that at the most, we have a very small number of people that would require a pretty in-depth management of their debt, and that is our very small group. Anything that you might need is most likely just a call to a counselor and a session and an action plan, and you don't have to pay for that. And watch out also for any coronavirus related charities. If you want to give, go directly to a trusted charity, one that you've given before, or go to the site. Don't click on any links that you get in your phone or your email. Just go right to the site. Okay, and as we've talked about all this, I think this is a great time to think about what are we going to do to change our financial life? Because you know what? We do have some control, and I think if we believe that we can, some decisions can, we have the ability to make some decisions, then then we can see the options that are out there. So think about, what are you going to do to change your financial life? If you don't mind, I'll share. For me, I am actually going to become much more mindful with my spending. I really got into a bad habit of, if I wanted something, I bought it. And now I'm not doing that. I'm asking myself, is it essential? Can I wait 6 months? And if the answer to either of those questions, well, if the first question is no, the second question is yes, then I just don't get it. I really try to talk myself. I try to do the count to 10 before I impulse buy. And if you have something that you're really trying to work on, then write it down, set a goal for yourself, and then tell somebody that you're doing it. And you know what? Make them your accountability partner. So as I said, there are resources, and this you will get in with the PowerPoint. I would like to point out one of these resources, and you're going to see my side of my face here, because I really would like you to look at this. This is called Aunt Bertha or AuntBertha.com, and it's a great resource, one-stop resource for any kind of assistance that you might need, either informational or financial. And I would that's a really good place to start if you're just overwhelmed. But I'm going to tell you the best place to start, and I have to get rid of this annotation, is all right. And I apologize. Let's see. Whoops. Let me get back here. Excuse the arrow. Let me see if I can erase that. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. This is your best resource, and I really think that we're lucky in this area to have Clarifi as a resource. Our counselors are all working remotely. They can help you develop an emergency financial plan. And, for me, that is helpful to have somebody to talk to about that and talk through things with. Because sometimes you might forget that, oh, I spend money on this. And just by having a conversation, that sort of stimulates your memory. Also, our counselors can coach you with how to talk to lenders or landlords or credit card companies. What can you say to have the most impact and get results? And then also direct you to resources, because I found that since the middle of March, when we all started working from home, resources have become more plentiful and also more responsive. So it's it's something that I looked at in March, is there's just way more right now than there was in March. So for sure, our counselors are keeping up with what's going on and can direct you to those resources. Here's an easy peasy way to get a hold of us, that 1-800 number, 989-2227, or visit myclarify.org, and that's actually an online portal. You would set up an account and you could schedule your virtual appointment through that. And if you just want to look at some resources right now and not wait for my my presentation to come to you, you can go to clarify.org, and there is right on our homepage is a huge banner about accessing COVID-19 resources, or coronavirus, whatever you want to refer to it as. But again, let me just repeat, give us a call, 1-800-989-2227, or go online to myclarify.org and set up an appointment. And typically it's an hour to an hour and a half. And what's nice is you actually get an action plan. Excuse me. Sorry. You will be giving some information. We'll pull a credit report on you to see where things are, and we'll go over a budget, and then we'll discuss what your goals are, what what you would really like to do financially speaking, and we'll send you with an action plan and steps to help you reach those goals. And then we'll be checking in on you to make sure that that you haven't hit any obstacles or roadblocks along the way. So before I leave you, and I do want to leave you with this, as I said, this is an awful lot. There's a lot of information coming at us, and it can get overwhelming. I'm not even sure it is overwhelming. So take time out every day to just get to a place where you can be calm, because when we are stressed, we almost always make really bad financial decisions. And we want to take a breath, count to 10, and understand we're all in this together. You do have a partner at Clarify to help you navigate this, and there are a lot of resources available. So I want to thank you very much for being with me, and I'm going to leave you with this breathing exercise that I actually do as well. And if you want to take the time, if you want to join me, it is, excuse me, let's get rid of that. You'll see on the screen some directions. So you want to breathe in, take a breathe out. So breathe in, nice deep breath. Breathe out all that stress. One more time. Fill those lungs. Get rid of that stress. Thank you so much, and I hope that we're in this together, and I wish you well.
Thank you so much, Karen. That was so much great information that I'm sure we're all going to benefit from. Thank you again for doing this.
Okay, my pleasure. And we will, here, I'm going to stop sharing, I guess. All right. Well, we can talk, Sarah, if you